Oh, I literally just shot a whole 10-minute video. And I was on, folks. I was on. I was hitting it. And apparently I didn't hit start recording. I'm not a quitter. We're going to do it all over again. Let's do it live.
No. We'll do it live. Fuck.
All right. Here we go, folks. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video where today I wanted to address a lot of the questions I've got after TK posted his video about Hyundai being interested in buying Chrysler. If I think that's a possibility, do I think that could actually happen? Well, listen, I give massive credibility to TK. This guy has an insider, has many insiders, and he shares information, and then boom, we end up finding out that he knew stuff before anybody else knew anything. And I'm bros with the guy, and we've had conversations in our private group with Butter, and between the two of those guys, they get information that blows my mind. So I don't discount anything he's saying about Hyundai coming to the table and saying, hey, you want to sell that thing? You guys aren't using it. You only got 2 freaking vans. And, if you're not using it, maybe you don't need those things. You can just sell it to us and we'll do something with it. I have no doubt in my mind that's probably actually happening. But could and would it happen? Well, I believe for several reasons I don't think it could happen, because I do believe the only way it could happen would be, and even then I think it's a long shot, would be they would have to buy Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, and maybe even Fiat, because it all fell under the old FCA thing that was bought from Daimler Chrysler back in the day. So I think they would have to buy the whole thing. And when I went back and I did some research, I found out that back in 2007, there was actually conversations being had with Hyundai back then that they were interested, or they were at least sniffing around and maybe buying it. But the valuation back then was somewhere between, I think I read, $9 to like $14 billion to buy Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram with Fiat, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram. If they were to buy that, it would cost them as much as about $14 billion. Well, if we just figure for inflation, just go from 2007 to today, I think a fair number would be to double that number and say, look, if it's somewhere between 9 and 14 billion was the price they would have to pay back then for it, then today it's probably double that. So it's probably more like 20 to 30 billion dollars. Why didn't they buy it back then? Well, did the research, and it turns out they didn't have the money. They were losing $1.5 billion back then, at least Hyundai was, and there was no way that they could pull it off. They were struggling themselves. Also, their chairman back then was indicted and arrested and ultimately convicted of embezzlement of over $100 million that he was going to use or used to bribe officials, and he was sentenced to 3 years and a huge fine. And ultimately, the sentence, imagine this happening like to any of us, we'd be buried under the prison. But he was actually, because they felt like it would be too big of a financial impact to put him in jail for 3 years, so they ended up commuting the sentence and instead giving him community service and like $100 million fine. And then he was off the hook from the whole thing. But of course, he wasn't going to run it anymore, so who was going to run it? Well, who do you think? His son. So he put his son in charge of Hyundai, which I believe is still in charge of Hyundai to this day. Now today, fast forward, Hyundai's doing much better. They're making $1.5 billion or so in profit, and they're a much more healthier company. I believe they are the fake Rolex of cars type company. They took Bentleys, they took Mercedes, and I believe they just went ahead and copied them and sold them for cheaper, with the cars like the Equus and the Genesis line are amazingly beautiful cars, great warranties. And while Hyundai went through its tough times when it came to quality, they've come a long way and they've built some great cars. Even the Hyundai Ioniq 5N EV will smoke the Dodge Charger Daytona Scat Pack 0 to 60 all day long, hands down. And it's a Hyundai, and it's like $20,000 less. I mean, Hyundai's done a decent job. I can't take anything away from them, despite the nepotism at the company and how it's ran, and it being a Korean company and everything else. Bottom line is, why in the hell would they spend the money if it's between 20 and 30 billion dollars to buy Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? Because I don't believe they could sell Chrysler alone, because they would have to. How would they warranty Chrysler when it's all the same shop, same mechanics, same everything? They couldn't just hand Chrysler over I think all the Dodge, Jeep, and Ram dealerships would still need to warranty those. And with all the recalls going on amongst all those brands and all the shared parts and shared employees and shared factories and all the other stuff, it would be too hard to split it off. And they couldn't just buy the name and slap it on something else. So I think they'd have to buy the whole shooting match, which would cost probably between 20 and 30 billion dollars. And let's go ahead and just assume that there's no way Carlos Tavares is selling it at a steal. It would be around 30 billion dollars. And you better believe that if TK said it's probably true that Hyundai's sniffing around, but I believe the son of the guy that got indicted, the chairman of Hyundai, they probably went in and said, hey, guess what? Why don't you go? I mean, Stellantis is screwed. They're disaster. They're ruining this company. Maybe we can get it for a really good deal. So give them a call, see if they'll sell it, and if they will, for like $5 billion, we'll take the nightmare off their hands. And I don't think Carlos would do that. I think Carlos would come back and say, one, there is no price. I would never sell it because I believe in my plan so much that I'm going to hold firm with it. But let's just say the number that would get them to say, okay, let's do it, would probably be 30 or $40 billion to get them to step up, because that would double the amount of liquid cash that Stellantis has and completely write their balance sheets and put them in a better position to be able to focus on the EU somewhere or on selling whatever Citroens or something like that. But I don't think any other number would work. So assuming it would take, let's say, $30 billion to do the deal, could Hyundai afford to buy it? Well, I went and did the research. It looks like they only got about $22 billion in cash on hand as of the most recent numbers, I think this year. So with a little bit over $22 billion cash on hand, they couldn't buy it cash, so they'd have to go finance it. But the next question is well, how much debt do they have? Because if they're debt-free, no problem, no big deal taking $20, $30 billion in debt to buy that thing. It could make sense, especially if they could turn it around and make money and stop the insanity that Stellantis has been doing. Well, they have almost $99 billion in debt at Hyundai, according to the most recent numbers that I was able to find. So with almost $100 billion in debt, only making about $1.5 billion a year, sitting on 22 point whatever billion dollars in cash, there's no way they could buy this thing for the price that Stellantis would want. I believe they're looking for a steal. There's blood in the water. They're making the calls, and TK is probably hearing legitimate information, and there's no way Hyundai is going to come up with that money. And I don't want to, be the bearer of bad news, but I don't see Frank B. Rhodes coming up with $30 billion either, and I don't see crazy Carlos Tavares selling it anyways. He's so committed to his Dare Forward 2030 plan that he believes he's going to be literally standing up on his way out in 2026 saying, I told you so. See, I told you it would work. And we're all going to be laughing going, no, it didn't work, because there's no way that his strategy is going to work unless he starts doing what Porsche's doing right now. I want to do a whole other video on this, which is saying, hey, this whole electric thing's not working out too good. How could we stick some gas engines into our most popular cars like the Taycan and sell those, or make them into hybrids, because those would sell like crazy. Because I'll tell you right now, I think a Taycan's amazing. I'd love to have a Taycan as long as it wasn't electric. It's amazing, super fast, especially a Turbo S. Make it a hybrid, make it a fast as hell hybrid, and Porsche would sell those things like freaking hotcakes. Well, if somebody got a hold of Dodge and threw hybrid engines in these things, made them really, really fast, maybe even did a small V8, did a hybrid V8 or something, they'd sell the hell out of those things. But Carlos isn't going to do it, and Hyundai doesn't have the money to do it, because even if they did buy it, it would cost them probably billions of dollars to reverse the horrible effects that Stellantis has had on Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram. I just think there's no possible way. So my opinion here is it ain't happening, and if I'm wrong in a week from now, we hear an announcement that Hyundai bought Chrysler and they split it off somehow, and now Chrysler people have to go get their cars fixed at Dodge dealerships and new Chryslers when they come out with those, and it would take them 2 years to get a car to market. So I just can't see that. I can't see any of this stuff happening for those reasons. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I think, the math just doesn't work. With that said, tell me I'm crazy, and that's cool, because I just can't imagine. I can't imagine. Anyways, we shot this video, and hopefully I did hit record. With that, please like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.